Hello, Denver Classroom Teachers Association. I'm Tim Brown, one of your members, and we're here celebrating our 100th anniversary with Gordon Heaton. Gordon was the president of the Denver Classroom Teachers Association from 1976 to 78, and he was also the president of the Colorado Education Association from 1982 to 88. So welcome, Gordon. We're delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Tim. Great to be here.
I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about your teaching career and where you taught and what you taught in your time in Denver,
Sure,
or even before.
sure. Well, I taught my first and only year in sort of where I went to high school and college in Jacksonville, Illinois. I taught 1 year there in a 2-year junior high, seventh and eighth grade, and then my wife and I moved to Denver. And as I said earlier, I started teaching at Horace Mann in North Denver.
Mhm.
I taught social studies and English. And in the words of the personnel man who hired me and assigned me to Horace Mann, and I'm quoting, "Gordon, my boy, if you can teach at Horace Mann, you can teach anywhere." And that is, I'll never forget that. Then I was DCTA president for 2 years, as you mentioned. I did a TV show for 1 year at Channel 6 on career choices. Um, After DCTA, I went to Kepner Junior High School, 3-year junior high, and taught English full time. Uh, then, after CEA, finishing up in 1988, I went to the Career Ed Center and taught in a full-time academic program there for 7 years,
Okay.
from 1988 to 1995. And then I went to TJ and was there from 1995 until 2009 when I retired. And at TJ, I taught regular American history, advanced placement, United States history, and street law. And it was a dream assignment.
Mhm. So how many years has added up to?
Well, counting the year in Illinois, it all adds up to 44 years that
That's
I
an
was,
impressive track record.
yeah, it was a great career. I loved it all.
We're wondering what the issues were when you were the president of DCTA. What was happening during your tenure in the 70s?
We always seem to be dealing with teacher transfers as a result of the court-ordered integration of the Denver schools. Over a period of years, we had nearly 1,000 teachers who were administratively transferred to other buildings to balance the ethnic requirement as set by the court.
Okay.
Most teachers did that. They did it for the good of the kids, but it created a lot of turmoil, obviously, for individuals. And so DCTA was in the middle of that, trying to represent teachers, not not violate the spirit of the court order, certainly, but that was an issue.
So it sounds
I
like DCTA was really working for racial equity in that time period.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the issues, and who knows, maybe it's an issue today, but we worked hard to try to recruit more male teachers into the elementary schools. Um, and that really was almost one of our strike issues. Another issue was recruiting minority teachers into the district. We were
Mhm.
solidly behind that effort, and in fact, it was one of the issues in the '69 strike.
How so?
Well, just that we felt that the district was not doing enough to hire Black and Hispanic teachers into the
Mhm.
district. And so, along with salaries and retirement and class size, that was one of the major issues during that strike.
Okay. When you were the president, were there other things that you worked for?
Um,
Class size relief comes to mind, perhaps?
yes, we negotiated a class size relief program where we took a 0.5% of the salary increase and put it into a program to fund class size relief for teachers, K through 12, aid help for teachers, supply help for teachers.
Mhm.
It was administered, it was teacher run. In fact, the first administrator of that class size program was Rob Gould's father, Bob Gould.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about and maybe any salary increases you garnered when you were the president?
I think it happened on my watch, Tim, but it's been a while ago.
Hmm.
But we negotiated a cost of living in our contract, in a 3-year contract, based it on the consumer price index as studied by the University of Denver. And over a 3-year period, we had 7.4, 10.5, and 11.5 salary increases.
Wow, those are fantastic raises.
Those were amazing raises. One year, Tim, we put out a flyer and all it said on it was 10.5
Hmm.
DCTA and sent it out to the building reps. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a great accomplishment. Let's switch gears for a moment, if we may, to your tenure as CEA president.
Okay.
What were some issues during that time period?
Well, I mentioned earlier one of the issues was that we seem to always be battling the issue of tenure. CEA was viewed by the legislature, by school administrators, by school boards as being dug in on the issue of tenure, that we were not willing to change, that we protected bad teachers. And I felt I was always able to refute a lot of those arguments, but it was an issue. I think funding for public education is probably one of the things that I fought the entire 6 years that I was CEA president. I
Hmm.
was a registered lobbyist during that time, so I testified all the time, mostly to the House and Senate education committees, trying to get more funding for public schools. I remember in one Senate Education Committee, a senator from Jefferson County saying, "Well, Gordon, what do you want? Do you want higher salaries or lower class size? Just tell me what you want." And I said, "Senator, that's not a choice for us.
Hmm.
That's not a choice," because I could see being quoted the next day in the paper, CEA president says we want salaries and we won't worry about class size. So I didn't get caught in that trap. But
Yeah. So speaking of
I
the
think political
newspaper,
action, the other thing, Tim, political action at the CEA level, we established a PACE steering committee, which I chaired the
mhm,
6 years that I was there. We endorsed candidates for Congress, for U.S. Senate, for state office, for the legislature, and I think we had pretty good success.
so it sounds like you did. But I'm wondering about this article from, I believe it's 1986. Could you give us the context on this about being able to dismiss tenured teachers back in the day when Colorado had tenure?
Yes. As I prefaced my remarks a little bit earlier, we were viewed as the block in trying to make change, when in fact, working with Senator Al Micklejohn from Arvada, who was the chair of the Senate Education Committee, we expressed a willingness to explore some concepts as it related to due process. And frankly, we were very close to agreeing on some ideas, and the
Hmm.
school executives organization backed out of that. And I
Okay.
remember Senator Micklejohn being quite upset about that. I had a lot of
Yep.
debates with Governor Lamb, Dick Lamb at the time, over tenure, and he loved that was he loved to put that issue out in the press and
Yep.
stir it up. But as I said earlier, we had to keep in mind our membership was scattered around the state, and teachers in those rural areas felt they needed some strong protection. So we were not willing to throw it out.
Right. To protect everybody across the state.
Absolutely.
Yep. So either from CEA or from DCTA, what additional victories or defeats might you like us to know about from your time as president of either of those organizations?
Well, I think as from DCTA viewpoint, I think victories fell in the area of salary. Our membership was strong. We put a lot of effort into recruiting members in the buildings. We were very successful during the time I was president of electing people to the Denver School Board. In fact, on one occasion, we endorsed 4 candidates and elected every one of them.
Okay.
And I think that really got the attention of the public in Denver and saying, wow, you know, those teachers have a strong power base. We had, as I mentioned earlier, a very active retirement study committee. Some very dedicated people made monthly reports to the DCTA board of directors about what they were advocating and pushing for, and I think it made a huge difference.
It had some impact. Yeah. So we have another question. What would you hope for DCTA for our next 100 years?
Well, I hope the organization is able to stay viable, that it's visible. And I know buildings have changed so much in Denver, not only location-wise, structure-wise, but the names of the buildings I hardly recognize anymore. Buildings that I visited when I was DCTA president. I want DCTA to be at the forefront of helping teachers build pride in their profession. I was always extremely proud to be a teacher. And I think that needs to be kept up. I think salary, I think job protection, I think it's tough. I saw the other day where some district, I think in Texas, wants parents to have the ability to protest a lesson plan being taught by a teacher. I think when we get to that point, I think in the next 5 years, that's something DCTA is going to have to make sure is not trampled on.
So I'm hearing you say in the next 100 years, you're hoping we continue our pride and our image and also our strength, and that we are prepared for this particular sort of attack or anything else that comes our way.
Academic freedom.
Anything else you would hope for the next 100 years?
I think that's all I have to say. You know, it's hard to believe it's been around for 100 years. And I was active for a part of that, but it's served teachers well, I believe, and you know, support personnel, and they are all essential in building a strong organization, having a district that's respected and there's trust. I think DCTA will be critical to ensuring that continues.
Continuing trust with DPS, yeah. Well, thank you for your time, President Heaton. And we hope that you will come visit us soon at our office.
Well, I hope it's been helpful, Tim.
It's been very helpful and helps our members know where we came from and what shoulders we're standing on.
One thing I would just throw in that
Sure.
One night back in the 60s, mid to later 60s, I went to a building. In those days, we called it DCTA Representative Council, and it was a building rep from all the buildings.
Yeah, we still call it that.
Yeah, and the president was Bob Gould.
Okay.
And I went up to ask him something, and he said to me, "Gordon, you ought to run for the board of directors." And I did, and here I am.
And look what happened. Yeah, it's one meeting a month, right?
Yeah.
So our current president's dad is the one who recruited you.
That is correct. And, and Rob and I have had these conversations. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story of your time in our office as president, both from CEA and from DCTA. And we wish you a great day.
Thank you, Tim. I've enjoyed it very much. Thanks for.
It's been lovely having you.